What if you could take the most volatile, unpredictable source of money in the world and turn it into the most stable financial fortress on the planet? What if you could be so good at investing that you ended up owning a piece of nearly every major company in the world? Well, one country did exactly that. And it's not who you think. This is the story of how Norway bought its own future, and in the process, became the ultimate financial superpower. This is the story of the ultimate billionaire's playbook. But it's not owned by a billionaire. It's owned by an entire nation. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we break down the strategic moves of the world's wealthiest people and entities. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Moving on to the video. The Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund is worth over $1.4 trillion. It is the largest fund of its kind on Earth. And with that money, it owns, on average, 1.5% of every single listed company in the entire world. Let that sink in. From tech in Silicon Valley to factories in South Korea, Norway owns a slice of it. So how did a country of just 5 million people, famous for fjords and Vikings, pull this off? The answer starts with a problem and a terrifyingly good solution. Rewind to the 1960s. Norway wasn't a rich country. It was fine. Lots of fishing. Then they struck black gold, oil, and suddenly money started flooding in. But this created a huge problem. It's called the resource curse. Basically, when a country finds a valuable resource like oil, it tends to, well, go a little crazy. The government spends all the money when prices are high. People get used to a rich lifestyle, and then the price of oil crashes, and the entire economy collapses. We've seen it happen over and over again. Venezuela, Nigeria. But Norway's leaders were different. They looked at this ocean of money and asked one incredibly smart question. What happens when the oil runs out? They realized this oil money wasn't normal income. It was a one-time inheritance. It was the country selling off a finite asset. And if they spent it all on themselves, they'd be leaving nothing for their children. So they made a radical, almost unbelievable decision. They decided to save it. Almost all of it. In 1990, the Norwegian parliament made it a matter of law. The rule was simple. Almost all the revenue from oil and gas goes straight into a new national piggy bank, the Government Pension Fund Global. The government is only allowed to spend the expected returns from the fund, usually around 3% per year, not the massive treasure chest itself. Think about the discipline that takes. It's like winning the lottery and deciding you're only going to live off the interest and never touch the millions in your bank account. It's a masterclass in delayed gratification. But here's where the story gets even smarter. They didn't just put the cash under a mattress. They had to invest it, and their strategy was pure genius. Step 1. Diversify like crazy. They knew having all their money in oil was risky, so they decided to invest the money outside of Norway, in thousands of different companies, in dozens of countries. This did two things. It protected the Norwegian economy from oil crashes, and it made the fund incredibly stable. If tech stocks crash, maybe real estate is up. It's the ultimate safety net. But step 2 is the real kicker. The fund is built on oil money, but it's now one of the world's biggest advocates for ethical investing. They have a dedicated council on ethics. This council has a blacklist. If a company is involved in serious environmental damage, human rights violations, weapons manufacturing, or tobacco, Norway won't invest in them. They've even forced massive companies like Walmart to change their practices by threatening to pull their money. So they're not just making money, they're trying to make the world a better place with it. So what did this incredible discipline get them? Let's look at the numbers, because they are absolutely ridiculous. The fund is worth over $1.4 trillion. That's more than the GDP of massive countries like Spain or Australia. Because there are only about 5.5 million people in Norway, that means the fund is worth over $250,000 for every single citizen. It literally pays for their schools, their hospitals, their infrastructure. And remember that 1.5%? That means if you own an iPhone, shop on Amazon, or drive a Toyota, a tiny, tiny fraction of the profit from that sale eventually makes its way back to Norway. It's the most powerful national savings account in human history. Turn now. You might be thinking, that's cool for Norway, but what does it have to do with me? Well, everything. Because the principles behind Norway's success are the exact same principles that can secure your own financial future. 1. They paid themselves first. The money went straight into the fund before the government could even think about spending it. That's like automatically moving 10% of your paycheck into savings. 2. They diversified. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. That's your cue to not bet everything on one stock or one crypto. And 3. They didn't touch the principal. They lived off the returns. That's the ultimate goal of retirement planning. Building a nest egg so big, you only need to live off the interest it generates. Norway is just doing it on a slightly larger scale. So, the next time you hear about Norway, don't just think of beautiful fjords. Think of the most brilliant financial strategy ever implemented. A strategy built not on greed, but on responsibility. Not on short-term gains, but on securing a future for the next generation. They didn't just strike oil. They struck genius. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world's smartest piggy bank, then do 2 things for me. First, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And second, subscribe to Billionaire's Playbook. We've got more stories coming that break down the brilliant and sometimes crazy strategies of the ultra-wealthy. Let me know in the comments what other billionaires or funds you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching.